Hi everybody, this is Jeff. I want to give another one of these videos on my series on, this one's on RFPs. I've already kind of addressed, made a video about RFPs in general, by the reason why we need RFPs for solutions as well as services, at least in the the language industry. This one I want to make it a little more wide because I want to cover a number of anecdotes from my career. I'll kind of make them anonymous. I will make them anonymous for obvious reasons. But I want to explain how, from the client buyer side and from the solution provider side, and 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 also as an expert in different fields and industries, how I've seen, and having been participating in the RFPs and RFIs in all different directions and ways in different fields, and not just the language industry. I want to explain a number of things that usually aren't talked about, and I think they're kind of important to consider in this whole RFP, RFI, RFQ kind of scenario. So I'll give a few anecdotes. Get a coffee. I'm gonna walk down. I've got a list of points, so I got them in order that I want to present them. But this is a story, and I'm telling them in a story way. So again, I this to help give you some things, and you do this at coffee breaks, and you do this at sometimes the conference talks gives you enough time to do it, but no conference to do right now. So to talk about this. So the first one I want to talk about, it was back when one day I was at at a solution provider for one industry actually, but it was also a translation consumer in another area, in another way. But for the software that we were selling, one day the I don't know what the role was at the time. He's president of the company now, but I don't remember the role at the time. He came to me, and he was my boss, and he just said, "I want you to help me on translating an RFP." Translating an RFP, or an RFI actually, an RFI or an RFQ. There's an RFI and an RFQ, okay? So an information plus quote, okay, to one of the customers in that other sector, which is not translation, okay? This is another completely different sector on that, what we are selling software for. And he came to me literally and said, "Hey, I've got to send out this RFI and this tonight. Actually, it was the tech talk people that came to me and said he asked them to translate this 2,000 words for this RFI. And the doc team came to me across the room and said, "Jeff, we need your help on this one," because I'd actually been their boss before, but they said we need your help on this. So I just went and talked to him, directly. Actually, there was two steps. This happened actually in two different phases over 2 weeks. So the first one actually impacts the second one. So they had it was a 2,000 word blurb that they need to send out some kind of RFI or something. And I think it was the end of the day. Yeah, it was the end of the day. So this is evening time, late afternoon, and I walked into his office just on the other just down the hall. I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this in record time with you, but you're going to do it the way I'm going to tell you to do it if you want me to save your rear end." Okay, I literally said this, okay? And I said, "You won't forget it, but we're going to do it my way because this is the way we're going to do it to meet your deadline," which is nuts. No one in the field, if you go to any translation agency to do what you want to do, they won't do it, okay, what you want to do, because they can't meet this need. But I'm going to do it, and you're going to remember it, and we're going to do it my way because this will save your rear end and help you sell this RFI to the customer, and RFQ, the customer actually get the deal, okay? And I knew I knew the whole solution very, very, very well. So it wasn't about translation, it was about knowing it. So I said, "Okay, I need 20 minutes of your time, no discussions. Nothing else is important right now, nothing. Everything else is less important right now, 20 minutes of your time." So we sat down, and I took those 2,000 words, this paragraph she had, and I knew the content really well because I've been working on this whole solution for years. And I said, "Okay, I want you," and he was bilingual, so that wasn't the problem. So I sat down and I said, "Okay." I went down. I just started circling terms, just circling all these groups of words, all these technical terms. Bam, 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 bam. Just start circling them all over the place. I said, what are the translations of those groups of words? Okay, that's the first thing we need to know. I need 15, 20 minutes of your time to just do that. That's all we need. So we did it. I mean, we sat down. He started writing it out. This is this. And I was working with him. We did it. Got it. And this is early evening, and I had a train to catch. Last train of the evening to go home, and I got a 2-hour trip home. So I got time. I got my own time constraints, where I got to spend the night in a hotel at work, near work, and I'm not going to do that. Got family too. So I actually went and pulled out one of the machine translation systems that was mastering already, and I already knew how to use and all that stuff. And I just coded and I just put the dictionary entries in, bam, 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 all those things that we had worked on. And then I put the source language and put the translation in there, and I timed it. It took me 45 minutes to do it, and then and I ran it through the system, raw translation into the I can't remember if it was like English to French or French to English. I can't remember which direction it was in that one. There's actually a paper on this. I wrote a paper. This is the one I think in AMTA 2004. I actually wrote about this. I actually wrote about both of these in that AMTA paper. So that AMTA conference paper actually explained both of these in it. And 45 minutes later, I delivered to him, and I had to run out the door, catch my train. I said, here's your translation. It's raw. You need to clean it up. That's called post-editing, but I'm not going to tell them about what post-editing is. You need to clean it up, and I need to know how much time you finished it afterwards. You did it, and you sent it to the customer, okay? I went home, and the next day I came back, how'd it go? He says, hey, man, that was great. That was great. He just saved my rear end, okay? Did it. He sent it off. We got the deals, okay? We got the deals. And I said, now, the next time you do it, you don't give me, 1 hour, okay? You do it, you give me more time. Do you understand? The next time, I won't save your rear end like that. So about a week or two later, and this is the AMTA 2004 paper actually talks about this one too. He actually gave me a week, okay? He understood the importance of this. And this one was a little bit different, was a bit longer, some critical customer. It was like validation test for the customer to actually accept. It was to accept the actual solution and the acceptance test for all this. And so he gave me a week, and we did it. And then I actually posted it myself. So all that is explained actually in that AMTA 2004 conference paper on telecom documentation. So I can see what it is because I actually published a paper on it. So this telecom, I went into MyCom. So this is nothing secret. So go read that document, which is up online for free. You can contact. I mean, it's in my list of publications. There's a downloadable document how you can get to it. Okay, so read that. That will help you understand the context in which sometimes RFIs and RFQs are written in. These are not always. There was two different scenarios. Okay, one was like, hey, we need this in like an hour, and we gotta save it, or we're not going to get a deal. That's how a lot of small companies function. Okay, or smaller even. It's not quite. It was an RFI. It was an RFQ. Okay, or it was an RFP. This is giving the response back. Okay, so this is an RFP. This is the actual thing of getting the response back when you can respond back, but in niche areas. So read that first because that helps you understand how sometimes these things happen, how responses might happen. This is not always the case. Okay. Now, I'd also add that MyCom did. Actually, my first week, I got to add this one into the another one that was my MyCom one. I remember being in the first 2 weeks of my job there. We had to respond to an RFP, and we're just spreading out all the answers, just to all of us, and the 7 of us that work in the company. And I've only been there for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. I can't remember. It was beginning my tenure there. I was here for 5 years, and we were just all trying to get these answers, and we were spread out all, not just the 7 of us, but we had people in other continents too, kind of working on this thing for a couple of days. So that kind of showed me a lot how sometimes these are done in distributed manner. And hold on, got some noise. Back again, noise is gone. Um, and so sometimes this is done in ways, and that was I kind of how I saw that was done. So this is sometimes people are, and I've seen this throughout my career that RFPs are actually usually distributed out. The questions are all distributed out to all different people. Um, and they're not centralized. I mean, they come back again. You hope they come back again. You centralize them, and I can say that like at SAP we have a bid center, and this is what they do. They make sure that the question is good, but the issue is tells you how the things are written, how the answers are written. They're all not harmonized. So you can kind of get different writing styles, and actually just from the things you can have some contradictions. So you got to be careful of that. So that was that too at MyCom, just having that. And I will say today that company is now a leader in its field, Okay, um, and that guy who was asking this question is president of the company today. So, um, and they know what they're doing. So it just we were in the early days and I had to do it, and we had to make sure that we did this right to get the customers. This is how it happens. Okay. In so many ways. And this is kind of really important. The context is important for RFPs plus RFIs and RFQs. Okay, it's really important to see how some of these are done. If you don't give enough time to give the answers, to let people do the answers, that's going to be an issue. If you don't have the questions aren't clear enough, they're going to do it. And if their timing is so fast, they have to be doing this in urgent mode. Okay, and here we get the answers in urgent mode. 11 minutes, you're still hanging on. Boy, I'm on number 0.2 here. Oh, wow. So, another example here I'm going to talk about was, I'll kind of mix this. I'm going to do this in opposite order because it's easier to kind of tell these things in a different way here. So, I think the really big one here. No, I'll do this one here. I'm going to, even if it's a different order, I'm going to do it in this way because it's a shorter story here. There was one project that when I was in a I don't want to say the company I was in, okay? I want to say that. But there was an RFP that was sent out, and I was on a service provider thing, which means there's several of my CVs. You're going to have to kind of you won't know who which one it is. I'm not gonna hint to it even. But there was a RFP that was sent out, and it was for a company doing software, and they had a software that had to be localized and translated into I think it was one other language. Pretty important software. So that's all I'm going to say. Not going to say anything else. Manufacturer. I'm not going to say anything else. And the person, and it was from French to English. So this is in France. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything more. So it's French to English. Their RFP. I had found the RFP somewhere, maybe on LinkedIn, I don't know. And the RFP had so there's some errors in it. I'm not going to say errors in the sense that it was ambiguous. The things that they're asking could have had different answers by different providers. It was obvious to me that this is going to happen. So, and that's a risk when you're doing RFPs. If you're asking questions that could actually end up having different answers because the perspective might be different. And so what I did is I called that person up and I said, look, you've got some errors in your RFP. I'm answering the RFP, but you've got some things that are going to lead to different answers, and this can cost you more time in the end to actually figure out what the people are saying because they're going to be answering from different perspectives, and you will be lost. So I think you really need to reword some of these things. So he let me reword it. He let me reword the thing. I reworded a few of the sentences. I said, these will be more clear. And you need to kind of re-send it out again. You need to send it out to let other people know that you're doing the RFP, that you've reworded these sentences that help them to kind of redo their answers. Now, I did not do this in order to, none of this gave a direct kind of advantage to the company that I was answering for. Okay. But what it did do is make sure that the answers would be clear, much clearer from all the providers, and that our answers were clear and they would be weighed at the same level as everyone else's. This is the important thing of these RFPs. Because if your answers are, if there's kind of like, if people are interpreting the questions differently, and if you got 10 different people, 10 different providers that are answering or more, and you've got groups of them that are kind of answering them differently, they're going to kind of think, well, which one is right? And what they're going to do is they're going to look at which one has the most similar answers. They're going to throw out all the rest of them because they're going to say these other people didn't understand the question, whereas the question was ambiguous from the beginning. Okay, so this is kind of the same. I've done this back doing electricity renovation in my house. Just weed out the people that have the high answers, the bids, and the low ones, and just stick in the middle. So make sure that you. So what happened was. What happened was that he let me reword the thing. It got sent out, and we answered the way that I knew that we were going to answer. But it also gave everybody else the same playing ground. Everybody's on the same playing ground here. No answers that kind of going to be weird. And we, at the end, he called me and said the day of my actually left the company, the day before the day I left the company, and we actually got the deal, and then I left the company. I didn't tell him that I just left the company, or maybe I tell him a little bit I was leaving the company. But the thing here was that the trust in your doing it to help them make a more clear RFP is really clear, and that gives you an indirect advantage. I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but it gave an indirect advantage because of the trust. And then he actually called me another time too, and he wanted to clarify another thing too. And then he told me at the very end that one of the other kind of shortlisted didn't get it because they weren't offering that similar advice of how to clarify it. So yes, it does help, and it always helps to get involved in the RFPs when you can, up front if you can. But sometimes the salespeople say, "Hey, you got to do this to get in," because it's kind of like this. I'd like this question to answer in the thread that talked about. It's like lobbyists writing the actual things for the legislators, which you don't want to get into that kind of thing because then you're just locking people in just to lock them in. Whereas here it was to make sure that the answer is going to be all same playing ground, same level, so that when people answer, you're going to get the same answer. You're going to get the same types of interpretation of what needs to be answered. Okay. Yeah, of course, it does give more advantage if you're help people do it. That's honest. Okay, that's true. Then another example at a solution service provider, and this was in the language industry, doing websites, and I'm not going to say where it was again. But I've been involved in several different companies that kind of do this, so you'll not know who it is, and you won't even know who the buyer was. So I'm trying to avoid all that stuff right here. But it was websites. So I had already gotten new business from a new business customer. This customer was a new business deal. And we started doing a number of websites for them. They had a bunch of different, other brands and stuff under them. So, that was that kind of, they had lots of websites to do in lots of languages. So, and all of my jobs that I did for that, I did a few of them. I remember the timing of it when it was happening. Yeah. And so we did it for a couple different languages. And I'll tell you, I did the 3-step translation, edit, proof, full payment. I mean, I'm talking price per word, 3 steps, okay? Plus I did project management, plus did desktop publishing, added hourly localization production work into it, plus terminology work on it, price per word or per hour stuff. I think we're doing a number of words per hour. That's how we did it. I can't remember the exact thing we did on that. Plus style guides per language, okay, per website, okay, or groups of websites that were on the same thing. That's the kind of stuff I was selling. This was not cheap stuff, okay. And then they had an RFP. They had to do an RFP, and so we had to go through the whole start of the RFP and stuff, and all procurement, and all that kind of stuff. No, it's kind of an intense time to try because there's all the pressure on me. We got to get this RFP. We got to get this RFP. We didn't get it. We didn't get it. We actually got shortlisted at the end, and everybody got to do their presentations independently and we did not get it because the competition undersold me 20% for price per word. Okay, for the web for all the content. But that's okay, because you know what happened? And I'm going to be honest. We lost the RFP. But all those separate websites that have been coming to you, these separate brands, kept coming to me because they said that even the RFP winner gave less better quality, and people and the brands were complaining about it. They had lower quality. So they kept coming back to me saying, you got better quality, and we were willing to pay the high price. And they kept coming. And you know what led to that? That meant that even if I lost the RFP, I didn't lose the business with the customer because the quality was higher. Even it was higher payment. Okay, higher payment. 20% more. I can't remember if it's 20% or 20% less. So what they were doing, when you do it's not exactly the same percentage, but and then you know what? Where I was, the company president calls me one day and says, how in the world are you getting all these repeat business requests of this RP if you lost? And I said, the sales pitch conference talks you guys, you give to all of us sales folks. Repeat business costs less money internally than new business. So loyal customers is easier to get than new business. That's the answer. Do it right. Do it right. So sometimes losing RFP is not the end of the world if you're doing it really well. Because sometimes they'll come to you, even if they're supposed to go through procurement or something, the IT department or procurement and stuff to go through the official, vendor list or something. I was already in the vendor list, but just on a different, not as the requested one, the one that we're supposed to go through. Another example, 22 minutes. Wow, you're still listening to me. I can't believe it. I'm assuming you're listening to me. Then I had another case here. I'm not going to say where this was. There had been a decision a year before I came into something, to a position. There had been a decision to, kind of buy or build a machine translation system. Okay, for a cost, kind of a setup, and so I came in, looked at all the stuff. I said, "Where's the proof of what had happened? Had happened, all this decision-making process and all this to go through this decision of going through all the service providers and all this." And someone sent me to some kind of page or something, and I said, "That is not an assessment." I said, "No way." So I said, "Okay, we're going to do this again, folks." Now that's kind of risky because I just said, "No, we're going to do it again." Okay. I'm going to do it again. You continue to do what you're doing, but I'm going to figure out, I want to make sure that this was done right. So I, required the entire team to let me do this, to redo the assessment, and with a much more professional approach to it. And I contacted, I don't know, 10 or 15 different providers in the field. And asked them to give me demos. And I said, no marketing people. Okay, I don't want the marketing people. I want to have a demo of the people, and I want a serious thing, and I don't want to need, BS. Okay, just people knew me, so they know I'm not going to put up with it. So we went to, I don't remember the exact number, but I did have a formal assessment approach, kind of report at the end. And I did do it, and I had a colleague work with me on it to make sure that we had 2 people attending these demos and all the notes and stuff. It's all documented. And it was, I'm actually pretty proud of this thing because I think it was really the right thing to do. In the end, it didn't change anything. Okay, it didn't change the decision, but it made sure that we validated the decision in an appropriate way. Now, a warning to all you vendors out there of solutions and services. If you have a customer, your customer, that decides to question the previous RFP process and how things are, do not put pressure on that person. Do not try to bombard that person, try to get them to look, because they're already putting their own reputation on the line to say, hey, we need to do another assessment because we need to make sure this is clean and this is good and this is due diligence. Okay, do not put pressure on them. Okay, just accept the fact that you were included the second time around. That's a good thing already. Okay, don't, there's enough heat already to do with it for an institution to actually go through this assessment, um, a second assessment. Which question's the first one? To just make sure it's due diligence. Okay, and it's make yeah. Um, it won't always revert. Will not always result in leading to some reversing any decisions, but at least you got considered. Okay. It doesn't mean that you have an excellent chance at anything, to win anything. It just means you are being considered and you are part of the first and then maybe second and kind of third level of going through this assessment. That's an honor, to do that. That you get to actually be in it. Again, don't put pressure on people to do things because it's kind of tough already. If they're going to do this. If they got the guts to actually do this, then um, let them do it and work with you and just answer the questions. That's all. And everybody we worked with did that because I just was up front and said, hey, if you start messing with me, you're gone. You're out of the assessment. So you actually kind of have to be kind of tough to do that too, and tell people. And no promises. Got to be careful. People that are doing this kind of thing, they will never make promises because they just want to make sure that we're going through and make sure that this was done right. And the answer in the end is the right thing for the buying institution. Okay. Another one here. Another one here I'm looking at in my list here. I got a long list, but I hope this is helpful. Um, and I'm sure that lots of you have already been through this, so this is kind of resonating with you. Some of you, it's not like it's new. None of this should be new information for experienced people that have been doing this for a long time in different sectors. I hope, but for some of you that are newer to this kind of approach, hopefully this is some advice. The gray hair is trying to help you here, and go through this and learn, not and have you have to go through, not have to get so much gray hair and losing hair going through the experience. Okay. So the another thing was in 2009 to 2015, I was running the not my only job, it was one of my jobs here at SAP actually. I was running all the ISO 9000 program for SAP France, which they would just got ourselves certified for the first time, and we wanted to get ourselves then recertified and all that. And that what that did was allowed us to, because we had the certification, and we could say, hey, we get the certification now on our bids for all these tenders, bids, RFPs, and all these want to call these things, which led to the bid center coming to me a lot, asking for answers about where we are at this and that, on our at our local level certification and at our global level certification on all the ISO stuff. My ISO 9000 time, but it can cover. It started covered other ones too, other different standards and norms. So that's again coming back to what I mentioned about the MyCom thing, where you're spreading out and delegating all the answers out to different people. So I've been through that, seen how it's done. And sometimes these are, people are just answering, you don't want to answer 3 questions. I have like 200 or whatever. I'm just going to say 200 because all these things are, completely different. The lists are different. But depending on the solution, because each solution is separate, Here at SP, we have 2,000 solutions. So you can imagine this is just the industrial center doing this. And that's, we got a bid center to handle this. So this type of thing, and then what you have to do is when this answer comes back, then they kind of have to be kind of checked over again to make sure that they'll fit. And top of it, I had the language aspect into it too, because I was answering everything in English, but I could have answered it in French too. Maybe some of them were actually in French. But you got to be ready to kind of do it in multiple language too. If you're at that language, that center, that market, or whatever this center is that's doing this is actually doing it for a specific customer in a specific country, then you're going to answer that too. Sometimes it's in English, sometimes it might be in other languages, depending on the language of the customer and all the final customer and all that kind of stuff. So there's another example of that one. Some information just kind of add to the knowledge base here. Maybe context you're going to run into. And let's see, what is the next point in the list here? I do have a list of points here. We're at 30 minutes, folks. You're still hanging on, folks. Maybe I've dropped off half of you. Um, so, some advice to solution and service providers. And again, I'm talking multi-industry. I'm not talking here just about the language industry. I'm talking about a lot of different industries. So the company I work for at SAP right now, we have 25 different vertical sectors off the top of my head, maybe 30. And that we get solutions in all the sectors touching them. So I mean, this can cover almost anything, literally. But so and I am looking now into other people are coming to me to help on kind of right now to put together other bids on other topics, and I'm not even going to say what industry it's about because it doesn't have to be language industry. People come to me for help in my internal in the company here to help them on bids on different products and stuff. So because I've just got a lot of experience doing this kind of stuff, and I've kind of seen this stuff, and we can optimize it a little bit and help on this and make sure that it's done right. But one of the things that you need to do as a solution and service provider to the buying customers, okay, is you need to make sure that your websites, your marketing brochures, and your websites that are the downloadable information, downloadable marketing information, plus your websites they must be up to date and they are easy to consume with all the information about your features and services. Okay, why? Because it makes it easy, and you need to make sure that you can compare it. The information you're providing can be compared with other competitors easily. Why? Because serious buyers, really serious buyers, are not going to come to you asking for demos or even answering an RFP at the beginning. They're not going to do that. They're not going to come do that because they don't want to give you false hopes. Okay, they're not going to want to give you false hopes. What they're going to do is they're going to start with your websites and your marketing brochures, and they're going to start going through that and reading through that to see if they can kind of get their answers, their questions answered based on your websites and marketing information, all that kind of stuff that's freely accessible and will not track them. Okay, because I don't want to give you any false hopes, false or fake hope. And then they need to be able to gather it, and they need to put it clear, and they need to put it into their charts and the kinds of things they want to do if they're doing it right. I mean, and this takes a lot of time if you don't want to do this right. Okay, it does take time to do this too. So it just makes it your information is clear and easy that again can be compared with competitors. If it's not, if it's hard to consume, then they're gonna like say, well, this is too hard to read, so this can be really hard to go through. Okay. Another thing that you need to do is you need to be careful of trying to focus on creating only custom offers. Like if you're really giving like bespoke, custom, offers and stuff, and you don't provide any generic or general information on your website, that can actually get you into trouble, or can actually get you in trouble. This can cause you to not be considered. And I have actually had to tell colleagues at times to actually be aware that some people will not put generic information on their website because they don't want to they want to kind of give thing, oh, it's this cheap or this easy. They want to focus on, hey, you want to have bespoke marketing, custom only approaches, services. And my colleagues are not even aware of this kind of approach. So this can actually get you discounted or avoided of not actually being asked to participate in an RFP. Or to give a demo or whatever. So kind of think about that if you're providing custom services. You need to kind of think about that. You need to think about what about all the ones that you're missing just because they don't know you and know that you're doing custom services, and you might actually be able to do a lot of different things but they're a lot of the customers, the buying customers, they just want to go find who's on the market, who can answer these things, bam, 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 compare all this in a chart, and then start looking through and who's the shortlisting. And if you're doing this custom stuff that you could actually do better than anybody else, you could actually risk not being caught by those that don't know you or don't know that you exist or don't know that you can see what I mean here. So this is an important thing. This provide some generic information. I'm seeing some in the field in some fields right now. They're always saying, hey, we finally all talk in this conference here about some things we do, but the website doesn't give enough information. That's kind of not so good. I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm just kind of just depends. So another thing to consider here are decisions are not always made by the RFP, just based on the RFP answers, but on other factors as well. And yeah, this is politics, folks. Okay, so your history. Now, how long have you been in business? And do the buyers, some buyers they kind of it's like buying a washing machine or a refrigerator or something. They want something that is going to be around in 10 to 15 years. It's not going to, and they're going to get the warranty, and they're not going to have to be, coming to you because it's breaking down after 2 years. The warranty stuff, that's not so much anymore because everybody's making their things so that the warranty doesn't last up to a certain point. But that's products. That's actually physical products and stuff. But people want to know that you're going to be around in a few years, so that they're not going to be putting too many eggs into one basket, too much money into one thing, and in the end, you've got you're not able to they're not going to be able to they're going to have to reinvest again a second time around, a third time around. They don't want to do this. Some of them are serious in doing this for a long term. Some of them, and on top of it, some of them don't know the history of the field of your industry that you may be in. So they don't know your background, and maybe your background in previous companies. Even if you're super successful, you wouldn't believe how many people I have to say, yeah, but you can actually trust this too, because they actually did this over here. And they're going to, oh, really? Because they're not coming from the field. They don't know. So if you are, beware, if you are a serial entrepreneur and you've done several successful companies that did well, and then you kind of move on, you sell it, and you move on and sell it, this can actually put you at a disadvantage, to tell you the truth. It's an advantage and a disadvantage. The only advantage is the people that know you, okay, because they know your background. But they don't know you, which is the case of a lot of people coming in. They just been told you got to kind of put this together, this bit together, and they don't know the background of these kind of things. They don't know who they are, the players on the field. They have no idea. And so that's a really big thing to consider. And I really encourage those of you that have been successful. I could shout out several people here, but I don't want to. But I'd like to, and shout out for a good reason, because you've done really well. We all know who you are, and you know who you are. But I just don't want to say it here because, because I think all of us are great. All of us are great and doing well. But there's some of you that are doing it really well, and you can continue doing it. But the problem is some people that are doing these RFPs, they don't know who you are. And just because your new business you've been doing hasn't been around long enough in the field, you're not going to be able to do them. They're not going to see history long enough to actually know you've been doing it. Whereas you're doing some really custom stuff behind the scenes that you could actually do the entire thing, but they don't know that. So again, that kind of relates to the other thing of consumable information on the website stuff too. It's just that this whole custom bespoke and all that, and the history of people actually being able to do this. Yeah, sometimes this isn't known by the newbies in the field who are actually taking care of this RFPs. It's not always the people who have long-standing experience in the RFPs. It's an administrative job, actually. RFPs is an administrative job. I'm not going to call it low value, but I'm just saying, having someone like me that, knows things inside out on a lot of topics, you don't want to be managing RFPs. The reason why is because it's an administrative job, and I'm not actually using my knowledge. I can participate in some of the RFP stuff, but not be doing all the min work for the RFPs, because it's a job where you just need somebody who's organized, and you can find organized people. That's not hard to do. But the thing is, it's right now my value is the content. It's not so much just the organizational part. I can find people to do the organizational part. I can hire students to do that and do it. But so what happens, a lot of companies do that. They'll hire people, junior people, not always senior people, to actually handle RFPs. Okay. And you can see this coming out sometimes when you're doing the RFPs, when you're handling them, when you're answering them, you can see this. Another point is credibility in the field or sector is a major factor. And I've kind of addressed this already, but the credibility, being known. Um, and I'll bring in this was my example at the Microsoft talk. Okay, so my talk at Microsoft, I'll mention this. So when I went and gave the talk at Microsoft in 2010, there were people that actually flew to come to it. Okay, because they want to talk with me, and with Microsoft too, but they want to talk with me. And there are people that had been chasing me down already previously. And I do remember being pulled into a conf talk because that actually was in August. That talk I gave in Seattle was in right, and this was is in August. But I'd been actually brought into a conference call several months before by a friend in the industry, peer in the industry, but a friend too, and to come onto a conf call, I actually didn't know what it was about. I didn't actually know what it was about. It was kind of like discussion stuff. And I get called in this conf call because I kind of, these people come out, bring me in because they want to have my thoughts on some types of things. You know, sometimes it happens that way. And I actually get called in a conf. We're talking about language and linguistics and stuff, and the Creole language stuff I'd done. And then this person joins the call, and the person's like military background, okay, and the person says, well, I don't understand. I said, what's your background? Military. Bam, I switched my vocabulary immediately to military. Boom, boom, boom. Military applications too. And I said, yeah, your predecessors here. They don't know how to do products. They only know how to do projects. They don't set the requirements. And I just blew this person away. Just blew the person away. And they said, wow, you actually know my field. And I said, I do. Talk to your predecessors. And so I actually just said, hey, and the conf call, and I said at that time, this was before the Microsoft time, and I just said this several months ago, and several months before, and I just look, you need to, when you are able to get your requirements written down from the field, when you get that down, then you're going to be able to start doing things. But it's not your requirements to come in. It's not really worked. It's kind of ad hoc here. And then people have these requirements. And it's not really thought through carefully enough. And then you come into all these vendors and ask them to do it. But then they actually have to figure out what you need. And believe me, I've been there in some of these military translation systems. It's just like, come on. You got to rework the whole thing and actually create the requirements because it's not clear from the start. And I said, look, I don't want to discuss. And I said, actually, you should be talking to other people. I can name all the people that you should be talking to rather than me because I'm actually not working in this field anymore. I'm working over in SAP doing software products and finance stuff. So, I'm just kind of being called in this call just because I got experience in this kind of thing, all that. But you should not even be talking to me. You should be talking. I can 10 other people. And then they say, yeah, but I've already called the other 10 people. I said, well, that says something, doesn't it? So something's wrong. It's either they're like not good, which is not the case because some of them are my peers in the industry before and I know how good they are, or you're not clear about what you need. So I actually said this in a conf call once. I'm not saying any who these people are. And then at the Microsoft talk, some same person takes a flight, gets there, and wants to talk with me. I was on vacation, actually. My family was with me. I were on vacation. My kids and my wife at the time were they're down at the Seattle Aquarium. I'm giving a talk at Microsoft. I want them to kind of have some fun and not have to come to this boring talk. Everybody loved my talk, but it's what I was doing for what I was doing. But my kids and my family didn't care. He didn't give a rip or what, because I was just kind of I was supposed to drop her a coffee. It would end up being a full day thing rather than just kind of a drop in, have a coffee, and give a 90-minute talk thing. It was a little more of a full day thing. Some private discussions and stuff in the morning too. So my wife had to get up and drive me there in the morning. The whole family had to get up just for me to go drop me off so that you go down to the aquarium all day long and stuff, and go to Seattle, go to the Space Needle and all that kind of stuff. But so that day, there have been discussions in the morning too, before I gave my talk in the afternoon after lunch, and there were like all these questions. I said, And these are kind of military folks, and so they're saying, yeah, we've been sent, we got to do this stuff, we got this field in the field. I said, again, look, your requirements are not clear. They're not clear. They're kind of just fuzzy. Yeah, but we got all these things, and why can't language do it? And why can't you language people do it? And why can't I said, look, or like, hey, we can figure out a piece of paper, or a tank can be driving along, and we can figure out what it is from 50 feet, 40 feet away. This piece of paper, or what it is. And I said, yeah, but that's not language. That's easy to do stuff. This is language stuff. It's actually kind of complex because it's giving you 5 different interpretations or 20 different interpretations of a single thing. Come on. Um, and so kind of woke that person up to how complex actually language is. It's not always simple. And there are so many other factors involved, rather than just kind of basic binary 0, 1 bits and bytes. Okay. Um, and and I just pointed out a whole bunch of things. I'm not going to go through and explain all those things I said to that person during that talk. And I just kind of blew them up. And they said, well, yeah, you got to do this. I said, I don't have to do anything because I work for S&P. I work in financial software. I'm not working in this field anymore. And on top of it, and this comes back to I'm Brock in the middle of the river. You know what? Even if I go back and we don't want to do this, I can't help you because I don't have history in the field with the company that's been around for 3 or more years. So I know that's how it works. You got the vendors, you got to make sure they get and I don't have a company that even as a consultant. I don't have a history of 3 years so much. You can't hire me. You cannot hire me. You can't even do it. All my knowledge I've got, you can't do it. So you can only go through my current employer. And if they don't want to do it, then they want to do it. So I kind of had to blow that person off. And that was kind of like a high profile person. And just said, sorry. So the history, okay, again, history, you got to have a history. You got to have financial history, and 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 you got to be able to do it so that the institutions can actually hire you. Um, and of course, in government stuff, it's a lot more complicated than it is if you're working with a small company, a small buyer. Bigger companies, procurement's a little more difficult to do than smaller companies and mid-sized companies. And then you start getting, like I said, the government just gets, if you don't have like the European Commission. I remember when I was doing grant bids or the tenders for grants and stuff. Like, you can see I've done a lot of these things and different things. You had to show your financial history for 3 years. Done. And if you didn't have it, you can't answer the bid. You can't answer the tender. There's no way you can do it. So that was European Commission, so another government. So these kinds of things are really important, really, really important for you to consider that your history, your work history at the company that you're providing the service for has a long enough history to do that, and financial, that you're doing more than just barely surviving, and you're doing better than that because they want to know you're going to be around in a couple of years, or 3 or 4 or 5 years too, because they're going to invest in you. And my last point, and I'm really thankful that you're still around at 50 minutes, if you're still here. So, your marketing and your sales approach, um, in answering bids or presenting, can hinder some buyers of other cultures. So let's say Anglo-Saxons versus European cultures. This can be a problem. Okay, it's not just the answer to the bid. It's not a piece of paper. It's how you present too and how you do things. And I will say, like my own R&D teams, and I've been working for this company. It's a German company, but I work at a French subsidiary that was an acquisition. So I got French teams here, and I've got German teams, and I work mostly with the Germans and other people from all those sites. And sometimes my Anglo-Saxon background, even if I've been living in Europe for 30 years, and I'm very integrated. Okay, my family's French, my kids are French. All my friends are pretty much French. Okay, so or French or from elsewhere, and people are integrated from France too and stuff. So I'm pretty well integrated. But my communication and my sales approaches are very Anglo-Saxon. Why? Because they just work. But the problem is that they irritate. They work internationally, but they can irritate people that are not salespeople and not that are, they're R&D people that just kind of want to be in the corner and stuff. And I'll do another video on that one. But so you need to be careful that what you write in the RFP and what you do is when you start presenting, be very, 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 very careful. Know your customer very well and who you're going to present to. Study them out intensely. customers. Know who you're going to, because your approach can do it. And I've known people, some people that I really respect in the industry. I think are great people, salespeople and development people and stuff. They've been actually taken out of RPs or taken just because their style doesn't kind of with some of the other, Anglo-Saxon style doesn't go with the European style. And I'm going to say European in general. I'm not going to indicate specific companies here, but I can name several people. I can name a few. And I felt, and this was one of the things I said that I did, several years ago. I said that I had been brought in afterwards. I made sure that everybody's back to put back in again, even all these folks that might have been, taken out because they're cultural, because they're the way they pitch things and stuff, because they do it really well. But it's seen as like the slimy car salesman kind of thing, which is not always true, because you've got actually the service and the stuff is there. It's just that the way it's presented is in very Anglo-Saxon approach, okay, which doesn't always go over well. But hey, that's what sells. That's what sells usually. It actually sells. But for some people, it doesn't sell, especially from those people from conservative European countries. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. Who are powerful economically, and I'm kind of like that. I've kind of used my intonation, my voice. I'm kind of playing with you guys. But this, I've lived through this for 30 plus years. That's probably where all the gray hairs come from. Okay, and I got losing hair too. So they got garages. They call them garages here on the sides. But this I've learned to adapt to, and I have to. My pitching style, my demo style is different. Can be different if I do have to do different languages, because I've learned that sometimes it just doesn't go over well if I use my really Anglo-Saxon approach for some of my French colleagues. And I'm actually telling you, I'm actually working with my French colleagues right now how to adapt their pitches for French customers, because I've done a lot of that too. And hey, maybe I should move over videos of that, because I'm already going over 51 minutes. There's no way people are going to hear the whole other story about that one in here too. I try to make these videos to, I try to keep them focused. And here I focus on only RFP stuff, just the RFP and RFQ and RFI stuff, plus a few little anecdotes about it because of the factors, cultural factors involved. But this is kind of like, boy, to do a brain dump, it's hard to do, because it's you got to do these. And if I start making every one of these points as a separate video, this is like makes my playlist so long it's impossible to follow. So, oh boy, it's possible to do lots of playlists on YouTube. You can make playlists of sub-playlists of sub-playlists. This can be done. I've done this in music. It takes a lot of work to do that too. But so hopefully this helps for some of you that are interested in deep diving into this. This is deep diving. You got to spend the time on it. And this is not like stuff that you can do in 5 minutes, a 5-minute pitch. You have to go through it. And this is what happens in meetings. So you just attended a 50-minute meeting on some ideas and skills and things that kind of help to make your approach to dealing with RFPs better, and whatever, if you're buying side, presenting side, answering side, and take it with a grain of salt as you want. There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. Okay, there's nothing right or wrong in this. It's just how you do it, and does it fit? Is it appropriate to the specific situation that you are involved in? And can you adapt it to make it fit most appropriately to your situation? That's what about. That's what we call localization, right? Adapting. So at least not for the translation field. So have a good day. Thanks for listening, and take care.